from Old University, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Many,
It's
okay.
It started, right?
yeah.
Almost.
I'm checking on YouTube.
Okay.
Maybe you can.
Okay.
India.
Start, right? Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Letizia, and I work as Innovation Manager at Savitribai Phule Pune University under the EduReform project. Today, I am very much delighted to introduce our EduReform partner, Dr. Letizia, who is an expert in content and language integrated learning, also known as CLIL. Dr. Letizia teaches language teaching at University of Foreigners in Perugia, Italy. She was a former senior researcher in Indre, Italy. She holds a PhD in synchronic, diachronic, and applied linguistics. Recently achieved the national qualification as an associate professor of linguistics and language teaching. She is a member of different working groups and scientific committees on CLIL and language teaching, both nationally and internationally. She has presented papers at national and international conferences and published articles and chapters in peer-reviewed journals in 5 volumes on CLIL. Now coming to CLIL. So you might be wondering that why are we taking a session in CLIL and why has it been a buzz term all over the world and why students going to Italy need to know CLIL. So CLIL is a method where non-linguistic content, that is subjects like geography, mathematics, music or chemistry, are merged with language that is not native to the students. So as here what happens is that as you know, there is no content without language and there is no language without content. As you might also remember your school subject teachers, when they teach you, for example, a biology teacher, when they teach you biology, they also teach you the organs, tissues, lungs, cell division, cell differentiation. So this, but in CLIL they teach a foreign language. So now I think I have spoken enough about CLIL. So now I'll pass on the session to Dr. Letizia, who is an expert on CLIL. I'll invite her to share her expertise on CLIL with all of us. So happy CLILing with Dr. Letizia.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, it's a pleasure for me to be here with all of you and to have a sort of virtual trip to India. And I had the pleasure just recently to have a real trip to India, and it was really a paradise to stay with you. And so this webinar will be aimed at trying to provide a sort of overview of a CLIL methodology. That's what we are going to experiment with students, with Indian students coming to Italy for the mobility students, and hopefully implementing CLIL in our Italian classes. So the idea is to have Indian students' expertise and of course in languages, in methodology, in content, in specific subject content to be applied into our Italian classes with our students, so that they can have an idea of CLIL methodology and this combination between language and content. So first of all, I would like to launch a poll, a sort of brainstorming poll that I think that everybody also in streaming can answer, because it's just Mentimeter, so you can just answer. Okay, here it is. Yes. This is the link, www.menti.com, and then the code is 7 460-663. So I would ask you to just take your mobile phone, because it's something that can be done very easily through a mobile phone. So you just enter this website and then insert this code, and you find 3 fields where you can fill in with your ideas of CLIL. So your keywords about CLIL, what you think about CLIL. I mean, if you know something, if you don't know anything, if you just have heard of it, your just association of ideas, what comes up to your mind when you think of CLIL, just to see, to make a little bit of brainstorming. And we won't have a lot of interaction because I know the majority of you are in streaming, but you can in this way give us an idea of what you think about CLIL, or maybe what would you would expect about CLIL, just some ideas. I don't know if there are problems, Arda and Celia. I think that everybody can answer through the mobile phone, just connecting.
Yes.
Yes, okay, it's okay. Yes, because just using the mobile phone is very easy. And at the same time, it also gives us the idea of how we can just use technologies, learning technologies. This is an example of web tools, so learning technologies for CLIL, and we can have an idea of how easy it is with our students to use technologies, to use web tools. Of course, we've been using technologies during the pandemic, so we are all experts. But now that we are in the so-called new normal era, we encourage teachers to use, of course, to keep up, to continue with them with technologies now not anymore as an emergency, as just a sort of obligation, but as an added value, as an integration to the normal face-to-face teaching. And that what we can do it. We can use a tool like this in distance teaching, but of course we can use it also in presence with an interactive whiteboard. We can have our students interact with their mobile phone and so on. So I can see that there are very interesting answers. So this in this TACloud, this is called TACloud, which is the named technical, let's say, name of what comes out from this poll. And the outcome is that in the middle you find the most popular word. In this case, they are all, let's say, same size, because you're only 6, so we are just encouraging you to answer. And the more you answer, of course the TACloud will reshape, and the algorithm that is behind will build up this TACloud, putting in the center the most common, the most popular word with the highest number of occurrence. In this case, we have, yes, more or less same size, but in the middle we have integration, which is of course a very interesting word, and is one of the essential keywords, of course, because integration means that we combine language and content, and that means that we integrate the learning of subjects, of disciplinary subjects, disciplinary content through a foreign language, one or more foreign languages, because the focus is also on multilingualism, on plurilingualism. So not only one language, but additional language or languages. So integration is, of course, and then you also have integrated learning, yes, because if we integrate both language and content. Second language pedagogy, yes, of course, with CLIL. CLIL is an example of second language pedagogy. We'll see that there are different acronyms, different ways, different definitions. Bilingual education, in some cases, but even if there are differences, because as I was saying, with CLIL, the focus is not so much on only one language. So we have with bilingual, for example, bilingual education, we have the idea that there are two languages at stake. But with CLIL, the idea and also the recommendations from the Council of Europe and the European Commission towards multilingualism. One of the latest recommendations in Europe, so by the Council of Europe, is to relaunch the objective to learn at least 2 foreign languages apart from one's own home language. So very interesting answers. We have critical thinking. Yes, critical thinking is one of the key words of our project, EduReform project. Now we want to develop critical thinking skills, and with CLIL we can really do that, because with CLIL we assign tasks to the students, concrete tasks, real tasks, and in this way we activate their critical thinking skills, their in sense of creative thinking, and the different sorts of thinking skills according to the specific task that we are assigned them. Then we have well, in content language, yes, in some countries you find content-based instruction, which is another a little bit different, but is another definition where content is the starting point. So content-based instruction in a foreign language, more foreign languages, but content is the focus is more on the content. With CLIL, we have this sort of balanced, so both the two objectives, language and content at the same time and in parallel. Knowing other cultures, okay, this is also wonderful. With CLIL, we have the so-called 4 Cs framework, which is a famous framework by Coyle, one of the greatest experts in CLIL at international level. I had the pleasure to cooperate with her for many years. And the 4 Cs means that there are 4 Cs behind CLIL methodology. One is cognition. That is what you've been, you added here, the thinking skills. Cognition means that we activate our students' thinking skills. Then we have content, which is the subject content, the content of the different subjects, the different disciplines that we want our students to learn in a foreign language. Then we have communication. Communication is the language, that the foreign language or languages that we use for learning, for talking, for communicating about subject content. And then we have culture. So this is really important that you, and great that you added the other cultures, because of course, when we use an additional language, we always bring with the language also the related culture, the culture of their country or all countries that speak their language. With CLIL, once again, culture is an important dimension related to the language and to the content and so on. Then we have cooperation and co-working, yes, which are also fundamental, because cooperation means that with CLIL we organize a lot of activities in pairs, in groups. So we organize group work, cooperative learning activities. We assign projects, for example, so that the students will realize tasks and activities to be presented, or realize real objects or digital artifact, for example. And so cooperation is fundamental, because it's something that can really help our students communicate and interact without feeling judged, without feeling, under pressure, because they can easily communicate with their peers, and in this way, the affective filter crashes. Affective filter can be lowered, so there will be it will be easier for them to communicate without any anxiety. Then we have have content. Okay, we said content, learning foreign languages, of course. It's a way to, let's say, add the exposure to the foreign language while at the same time delivering content. So we will have more, let's say, hours devoted to foreign languages, but at the same time, it's not only the language, but it's also the subject, it's also the content. Okay, great. Then we have some other, let's see, other interesting, yeah, they're all interesting. Illustration. Okay, with illustration, I can just, which is interesting because with CLIL, one of the keywords is multimodal approach, multimodal input, which means that with CLIL, we can not only deliver lessons with explanations, with, so communicate verbal explanations, or maybe reading text. So words are not enough, but we need to use a multimodal input. That means that we will use illustration, we will use images, pictures, we will use videos, we will use technologies, as I am doing now with this tool, because we have colors here, we have another way to express, to deliver content that is not only just a verbal explanation. And this means that CLIL is a really interactive and student-centered approach, because the students will be activated, will be involved in activities, and will feel the real protagonist of their learning pathways. Okay, better communication. Yes, I like that. Better communication, because they can communicate, they can talk about subject, they can do, for example, reports, they can do experiments. Think about STEM. We have of course, STEM and humanities. CLIL can be applied both in STEM and humanities. So CLIL, for example, in science, in biology, in chemistry, and they will be involved into real experiments that in a laboratory, and so they will also write reports, for example, and label the different objects and so on. And with humanities, with history or philosophy or whatever, would be anyway important and effective. Okay, great. Then now we have proficiency. Well, proficiency, where content is also big. Content means that, of course, we talk about subject content, and proficiency with CLIL. We can, well, like that, because with CLIL we can have a sort of as we have more hours exposure to the language. At the same time, we can have a real meaning making. It means that with CLIL, we not only focus on grammar, of course, not only on morphosyntactics, on lexicon, on the language, but we also have the students the idea that the language is really meaningful, is used for authentic tasks, so will be helpful to do something concrete also in daily life situations. Because, for example, we can have wonderful CLIL modules, CLIL activities on topics like Agenda 2030, sustainable development goals. So we can have this sort of transversal topics in English or in any other foreign languages. Of course, Indian students in Italy will be delivering CLIL in English, but as I was saying, CLIL is not only for English, but can be for also the other languages, of course. Okay, great. Then I think that we comment, well, cross curricula, yeah, this thing that I was saying about Agenda 2030 or other subjects means that, yes, with CLIL we can also have effective modules which can be transversal, which can involve different subjects, different teachers, and can also be a key for cooperation among different subjects and different teachers. It's a way also to overcome the strict borders of every single subject. And in Italy, for example, we have a recommendation from the Ministry of Education to work in team, the so-called CLIL team. So the language teacher, the foreign language teacher, together with the subject teacher, they will cooperate, they will plan and design and implement the activities and then assess the students' progress and so on, but the recommendation is for team working, so to cooperate, to work together. Okay, great. I don't know if there are comments, so we can, if we can have some interaction, I guess. No, because in I don't know if there's a chat. So Celia and Ala, please tell me if you can see some comments in the chat. Yes, Manti, you want to say something?
Hi, Letizia, how are you?
Hi, I'm Adira. How are you doing?
So till now, the students are all clear and they are very interested to listen to you. And we have put up a comment that if they want to ask you anything, so we will keep the question answer round towards the end. So you can continue.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So you just, yes, feel free to, if you have doubts or something that is not so clear. I just would like to say that this is, let's say, a general introduction to CLIL. So just, let's say, in really broad terms, but then, of course, with students that will come to Italy, because as you were saying, we have this wonderful opportunity to host you in our classes in Italy. We'll go further into details and discuss the teacher, of course, the teaching plan, also the different subjects and also the different activities, how we'll organize everything. So just it is just to give you an idea of, first of all, what CLIL is, what we mean when we talk about CLIL, and also to give you an idea of what CLIL is in Italy, because of course you'll have to work in Italy. You'll have some hours of job shadowing with some Italian teachers, but just to give you a sort of general overview. But of course, with students coming to Italy, we'll have then separate webinars, meetings to go into details and also plan things in details. Okay, great. Can you see my slides now? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Starting from the definitions, this is a very old slide that I always show because it's a sort of mantra with the, let's say, pillars and definitions of CLIL. The CLIL, so the Anglo-Saxon acronym, Content and Language Integrated Learning, is due to David Marsh, that is, so from Finland, is the guru, and I had the privilege to cooperate with him for many years. I also co-authored with him some work, some chapters, and in Italy we adopted the Anglo-Saxon version, let's say, but we also have the EMIL, the French one, the CLIL, the Spanish one, the FAWA, which is the German one. So there are different acronyms, different translations of the acronym. So just we said about this dual focus approach. So we have, first of all, CLIL. What is not CLIL? CLIL is not translating content. It's not that we translate, we simply translate, let's say, geography chapter or history chapter or a science topic into another language. It's not like that. It's not translation. It's not only, of course, the language is not only a matter of different language, but it's a wider methodology. And as David Marsh says here, there is no single model, no blueprint for CLIL. That means that we can also use translation if necessary to translate bits of passages or whatever, but it is not only that, of course, and it's just a wider methodology involving great deal of techniques, of methods, of tools, with no single model, no blueprint. So we can adapt, we can choose our own strategy, our own technique, according to the, of course, the level of the students, according to the to our aims, and so we can just choose whatever needed for that particular context. The majority of the techniques are borrowed from language education, from language teaching, because for language teaching we use a lot of techniques that can be interactive, that will have this sort of dynamic situations and context for the students. But of course, there's the content as an added value. Okay, then the European scenario, just would like to highlight the importance of technologies. Here, there's a report, CLIL and COL, Computer Assisted Language Learning, coming from the European Commission, but it's also a wider, also from OECD, so it's a global recommendation to use technologies. And we have with Nancy, with TL, a lot of examples of how technologies can really be effective for, reaching certain goals in education in general, and of course for language learning and for CLIL in particular. So, and this is also a general, let's say, recommendation to the students coming to Italy, to our schools. What we'll do is to try to encourage students to use technologies, different web tools and repositories for enhancing CLIL, because with it's difficult to find textbooks that will be just perfect for that particular subject, for that particular context. So what we can do is just to use different repositories, different materials, and use web tools, and of course adapt them to the specific context. So we'll use a lot of technologies when you come to Italy, and the idea is to just combine CLIL and COL, Computer Assisted Language Learning. Then in terms of just two other important recommendations, always at European level, just to give you an idea, the 2019 on the comprehensive approach to the teaching and learning of languages. So the relaunching the importance of language learning and teaching, and then 2022 a recommendation on the importance of plurilingual and intercultural education for democratic culture, which is of course important for CLIL, because CLIL can be the driver for plurilingual and intercultural education. And then Sustainable Development Goals, which are of course Agenda 2030. We also can work on that, as we were saying. Okay, so let's go to this wonderful puzzle that I really like. That is one of the comes from a European project, and this is something that I always show as CLIL Essentials, as a sort of collection representation, a very powerful representation of the CLIL Essentials. So that we can discuss, I can present through this puzzle some of the essentials, some of the pillars of CLIL. In the middle, you have the definition, so a dual focus teaching and learning approach in the L1, and then additional language or two. So that's why I was saying, we're talking about one or more additional languages. In parallel, so working in parallel on the language and on the content, on so math, science, physics, or history, and whatever. The pyramid here on the left refers to what I was saying before about the cognition. That you said critical thinking. That's one of the highlights of the Reform project. So the critical thinking, these are the so critical thinking skills within the Bloom taxonomy. You may have heard about Bloom taxonomy, distinguishing the critical thinking skills between lots and HOTS. So lower order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. So lower order thinking skills are remember, understand, and apply, which are, of course, easier, less challenging. While the higher order thinking skills, analyze, evaluate, and create, are more challenging. And of course, with create, we have the real activation of all the thinking skills of our students, because when we ask the students to produce an artifact, a digital artifact, or some realia, something concrete, or a poster, or whatever, or a concrete project, which is part of project-based learning, part of CLIL, we really activate all our students' critical thinking skills. That's why with CLIL we foster critical thinking skills. Then we have foster learner autonomy. That's something that we do through scaffolding, and you find in two other pieces of the puzzle: scaffolding language input and output, and scaffolding content input and output. It means that within CLIL we have a double level of complexity, let's say, because we have language and we have content. And so we need to be sure that the task that we assign the students is balanced, so that we talk about, let's say, that subject that probably they've heard of, that particular content that they already know, or maybe a part of that they already know. And then also in terms of language, we need to be sure that they master that language, they have that particular level, because otherwise, if the two levels are not in balance, it can be discouraging for the students, and of course it can be a failure. So it's important to balance the two areas, the language and the content, with taking into consideration the famous I+1, which is a sort of formula by Krashen, by famous linguist, saying that we need to provide the students the input, new input, but this new input, in this case, in terms of language and or content, this new input should be based on something that is already known by the students, so known previous knowledge, and then starting from that, we will provide that +1, so a bit of new knowledge in terms of content, in terms of language, but something that is manageable, that can be understood. We talk about Krashen talks about comprehensible input. No, input must be comprehensible. So as we have this level of double level of complexity, it's fundamental to guide the students towards autonomy, and this happens through scaffolding. Scaffolding means the sort of infrastructure, sort of help, a guidance that we give our students. And this guidance is that we need to help them. We need to help and guide them hand by hand in terms of language, in terms of content, through a set of facilitations, let's say. So we need to use both in terms of content and language, all the different strategies that can be applied to help them understand the content and the language. So that could be infographics, diagrams, images, visuals, illustrations, as you put into the chat cloud, or there could be rephrasing in terms of language, highlighting keywords. So you can read here some. Of course, we share these slides with the students, so you'll have the opportunity to read them in details. So it means, with scaffolding, it means that during the lesson, we use some techniques, some strategies to help them understand, to help them master the content and the language. And that could be multimodal, once again, approach. So it could be audio, video clips, diagrams, images, visuals, and whatever, or writing frames, or highlighting keywords, and so on. So this is an important keyword, scaffolding in CLIL. Then translanguaging. Translanguaging is another very important keyword. It means that when we do CLIL, we can use this sort of translingual practices. Translingual means that we can switch from one language into another, especially when we have more than one additional language. So we can easily switch. But also if we're talking about bilingual education, if we are talking about, for example, English and Italian, well, it's not the case, of course, for you, that when you come to Italy, of course, you will, I guess that you won't understand, you won't speak Italian, or maybe yes, would be, of course, it would be good, but only with English. It's okay, of course, but you'll find, for example, Italian teachers helping students with Italian. No, that means that we can adopt this translingual practice, so we can switch from English into Italian when necessary, because when we understand that a message won't pass, it's difficult to understand the meaning. It's difficult to co-negotiate. It's important to co-negotiate the knowledge and the content and so on. If there are problems, of course, we can switch into L1. We can also use the Italian in our case. Of course, it won't be your case, but you will be in class, you will be with, of course, the Italian teachers, and if necessary, you'll see that Italian teachers may help the students with Italian. Why not? I mean, it's not a fault, let's say, but it's really by literature, by the research, allowed to use Italian and English, I mean, in our case, but just this sort of switching from one language into another. Okay, then we have some other important, keyword is making academic visible, making intended learning visible. This sort of visible learning. It means that with CLIL, we want our students to be aware of their pathway. It means that with CLIL, we often activate their metacognition, their meta-reflection, trying to understand where they are, the difficulties they found, and the challenges, what they learned, their progress, so that they are aware, and they will ask for help. This scaffolding, they will be able to ask for help if necessary, for example. And then you see cooperative learning. We already talked about cooperative learning. It works when we have this cooperative learning activities or tasks with the students, so that they can work together, produce something, create something relevant according to the topic assigned. Okay, just yes, a few words about CLIL in Italy, because I wanted to give you just an overview of the situation you'll find in Italy. In Italy, CLIL is compulsory. And that's why here this is taken from the European Commission, the Council of Europe recommendation, the 2019 that I mentioned at the beginning, and you see also a quotation of one of my articles in the Council recommendation. I'm very proud of that. So it's this sort of extra means that clearly in Italy is recognized by the European Commission and the Council of Europe, so at European level, because we were brave in the sense that the Italian Ministry of Education adopted CLIL as compulsory by a reform law, and also because we adopted an inclusive approach. So we won't have any sort of test, so the students will not be have to take entry test, for example, to be admitted to CLIL classes, because CLIL will be delivered for all in that particular class. And this is a sort of inclusive and democratic approach. CLIL is compulsory in upper secondary schools. The last year, the 5th year, so students 17, 18, turning to 19, so last year. In some schools also starting from the 3rd year. And just very recently, in June, there was also another decree from the Ministry of Education encouraging CLIL since pre-primary, so primary, lower secondary, upper secondary.
So I think Letizia is having some network issues. She will be joining us very soon again. Till now, students, if you have any questions, you can write us in the chat box. Even if anyone from the consortium member have any question, they can write us in the chat box. And till the time she join us back, let's collect the questions.
She's back.
Here I am. Sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you see me now? Sorry, it's connection problems. I don't know what happened. Just
Yes, yes.
can you see me now?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm very sorry, but it was just a sort of explosion here, connection problems. Very sorry. Okay, so I don't know if there are questions so far. If we can maybe I can stop here and just take the opportunity of this break. That was not, of course, intended. Sorry, but maybe if there are questions from the students, we can start a sort of interaction, and that would be
Yes. We do have some questions from the YouTube. So the first
Great.
question is, can you discuss a session plan in any subject that uses CLIL?
You mean, sorry, can you discuss? Can you repeat the
Session
question?
plan in
Okay.
any subject that uses CLIL.
Okay, well, it's a very complicated question. Yeah, of course, we do that when we organize. Well, what is important is, of course, the subject. So we need to know when you apply for coming to Italy and teaching CLIL, we define some certain subjects. So it's important to define the subject. But what I can show here is a sort of CLIL planning tool. I will show you the, can you allow me to share the screen? Because I think that I'm not allowed now. Not anymore. Okay, yes, thank you.
You'll be able to share now.
Yeah, no, yes, thank you. So I wanted to show you this CLIL planning tool, which is the a CLIL planning tool by CLIL, once again, and it's available, freely available online. I will share the link. This is a sort of planning grid. Of course, it depends on the, is an example. There are different planning tools, of course. It's just an example, but it means mapping and so planning the module, for example. First of all, yes, we talk about modules in CLIL. So it's not necessarily the entire subject in CLIL, but could be some sort of module, so part of the subject, maybe in the first term, in the second term, or whatever, delivered in English, in our case. While for the rest of the subject, it would be the Italian teacher just continuing delivering his or her subject in Italian. So will be some specific modules. So in this planning grid, we can map, we can plan the module, so the topic of the module, in just defining so the topic, and then thinking of these 4 C's. These are the 4 C's that I was mentioning by Docoid. So content, cognition, culture, and communication. So with content, of course, we have the teaching aims, the learning outcomes, the list of content to be taught. So what we want our students to learn about history, about science, about philosophy or chemistry or whatever. So the specific bit of content that I want my students to know, to learn. Then cognition. So cognition, we said the thinking skills, and I showed you the pyramid of the Bloom's taxonomy. In this case, I can think of the possible tasks that I will assign the students, activating the different thinking skills. So if I, for example, ask them to create, as I was saying, create a PowerPoint or create a digital artifact or whatever, we'll have all the thinking skills of the Bloom taxonomy, lower and lower order thinking skills, the higher order thinking skills, that will all both be at stake. Then we'll have culture. So here I can define the cultural element, the cultural references that I can have, which are linked to that particular module, and so especially linked also to the language, to the foreign language that we are using. And communication is the focus on the language. So first of all, the level of competence of the students, what sort of language they will need according to the level, the content language, so specific keywords, phrases, the organizational language, the classroom language, the language I use to organize activities in class, scaffolding, and so on. So as you see here, I can map, just simply as I was saying, it's just an example, but through this example, I can map my module. This is the planning of my module in CLIL, so consider a module of science in English. I will define the topic, specific topic in science, and then the bits of content that I want my students to learn, the thinking skills, so the tasks that I will ask them to do with their creativity, with the thinking skills that I will activate, the cultural element, and the language, the focus on the language. Just in terms of communication, in terms of construction, co-negotiation of the language. And we also need to consider that with CLIL, communication, in fact, there's communication, there's not language, I mean, focus on form, for example, because what is important is that students will be able to interact, to exchange their reflections, their ideas, and to co-construct meaning, to cooperate, cooperate to reach the goals. And we want, of course, interrupt them while interacting to say that, for example, they made some mistakes, but focus on form will be left maybe aside to another separate session, a follow-up session, for example, and the interaction, the communication on that particular topic will be free. I mean, they will be left free to organize their work, and that's why with CLIL they are really the protagonist of their learning pathway. I don't know if I answered the question, but maybe when we, of course, this is just a general, it's just an example, but when we have the students coming specific, so with specific students coming to Italy, we'll have separate sessions according to the subjects that you will teach in Italian classes, and of course we'll share examples and we'll plan, and that's something that we also do with the Italian teachers, because as we were saying, first of all, in Italy we have this recommendation on a CLIL team that language teacher will work with subject teachers, and also because of course it's important that English students will cooperate with Italian teachers, and so the planning of the CLIL module will be done together with the subject teacher. So what we do before you come is to organize a separate session for subjects, so for the students with that particular subjects, with Italian teachers that you'll find in Italian classes, so that you can together plan the CLIL module in that subject, in the classes. So you will also be aware of the specific context, the different level of the students, so the situation, so that the teaching will be more effective. Of course, when you come to Italy, you won't have the you won't teach immediately, but then you will have some hours of observation, and you will be guided to familiarize with the students, with the situation, with the content, with the school, and so on. So you learn first, you study, observe first, and then you will have a sort of job shadowing with Italian teachers, and then of course you will be asked to have your lessons, and the lessons will be planned together with the Italian teachers, also because we need to, of course, place your interventions within the annual plan of the teacher, of the school curriculum, and so but in preparation of that, before coming to Italy, we'll have separate sessions with Italian teachers, so that you can start familiarizing and have an idea also of the curriculum of the particular subject, and how you can contribute with your lessons.
Thank you so much, Letizia. I hope the question is clear to the audience and to the student who have asked this. And so do you want to take the next question, or you want to continue?
No. We can have the. I think that we can just because that was my main. I mean, let's say theoretical with that poster. I think that I highlighted the majority of the aspects of CLIL. But yes, what is interesting is what comes out from their questions, and of course it will be. This was just an introduction, an overall introduction that will be useful to know what they think, what they wonder, and yes, please tell me the next question, Mansi. Thank you so much.
So it is a very interesting but a very long question. I have shared it in the chat box as well. So it was there in my mind as well, that can't it be a risky pedagogy, as in the content of the subject might be compromised if the student and teacher especially are not proficient in the taught language. So how to ensure CLIL pedagogy doesn't encourage inequality in learning levels in the classroom?
Okay. So first of all, of course, the objective is just the opposite, not inequality, but of course, equality and inclusion and democratic approach, as I was saying, with CLIL, that's what we want to do. First of all, in Italian classes, we have, in the majority of Italian classes, we have the so-called mixed ability classes, mixed ability groups. So even if we have clear standards, because we have the B2 level for students should be B2 level in English at the end of upper secondary school by law. I mean, these are the recommendations from the Ministry of Education. But it's not like that, unfortunately, in all the classes. There are some students who are very proficient, and also because the pressure from the family, so they take external certification from other certification bodies, and so they have extra maybe lessons, and they can be. Fortunately, more and more students are B2 at the end of upper secondary school. But it's still, I mean, the situation in the classes, let's say, the differentiation is still very, it's an issue, because we have in any class, in any school level, we have mixed ability groups, mixed ability classes, and there are some projects where students can maybe can be paired, or can work together on their same level, but generally speaking, Italian classes are mixed ability. So it means that with CLIL we don't do anything harm in the sense, because the inequality in terms of well, I won't call it inequality, I just will call it mixed ability, just different levels. It's a part of it's a normal part of our normal aspect of our classes. And CLIL, on the contrary, may help individualization and personalization, because with CLIL, for example, in a CLIL project where students will be called to work together, will be engaged in group, we have peer teaching, peer coaching, we'll have so cooperative learning. Students will have their own role, and of course more advanced students, more proficient students will help maybe weak students in terms of language, but also the content will be at stake, and it means that maybe passionate students on that particular content will be helpful and will be maybe more helpful on the content side more than maybe on the language, and that may be the difference. So the sort of cooperation, this exchange of so this synergies that will be created by CLIL may be an added value and not the opposite. Also, these technologies, of course, can help towards personalization, individualization, can be an added value. Talking about the level of the level of competence of the teacher, CLIL teachers in Italy need to be trained in terms of language and content. So they are subject teachers. So the Italian CLIL teacher is a subject teacher, let's say a philosophy teacher or a math teacher or a science teacher. Who will be trained, so will get a C1 level of competence according to the framework, Common European Framework of Reference. So a C1, it's quite high level, and and then they will also attend university course on CLIL methodology. So they, of course, once again, talking about teachers, we can have mixed abilities teachers, and I mean that they are non-native there. But here I would like to also say that recent, research in language education said that the non-native teacher is not anymore is not anymore necessary in terms of effectiveness of language teaching. We don't need to have the native speaker in class to be an effective teacher. Also, non-native speaker can be of course very good, and the importance is not accuracy, is not, let's say, the best pronunciation, the standard pronunciation, but is of course methodology, is the way that you can just interact and facilitate communication and facilitate co-negotiation and comprehensibility. That is an important keyword. That is not the focus on form, on let's say accuracy, but on comprehensibility, intelligibility, and interaction and communication. So CLIL can be, just to end up with a question, CLIL is, of course, the Italian teachers, as I was saying, need to have a C1 level in English. Students, Indian students, will be very proficient, so will be, of course, helpful. But also exchange programs, international projects, and cooperation with the language, as I was saying, CLIL team with the language teachers can be, of course, an added value. Okay.
This is so great to know about this, that CLIL is not just about the content or just the language. It is really beyond that. So we have a next question from one of our consortium partners, Vidyanand sir. So he want to ask you that how you plan to connect culture to the topic in the global context.
Yes, of course. With CLIL, you, in the global context, you can think of any issues, of any topic that will be related to sustainable goals, will be related to global issues. This is CLIL is just a transversal methodology. So with CLIL, you can, culture is in the 4 C's, as I was saying, so is one of the, let's say, pillars of CLIL, because we always talk about somehow about the culture that's behind the topic, that's behind the language, and so on. And then so you can decide the specific topic, the specific goal. As I was saying, Agenda 2030, for example, in Italy, we have a lot of schools adopting global citizenship education as part of the curriculum, and this is a wonderful example of CLIL. In some other cases, we have CLIL in citizenship, because civics is compulsory in Italy as well. So we have a lot of CLIL modules, a lot of CLIL activities on citizenship, on civics, and they are transversal. They can be just, transversal global topics. So I think that with CLIL you can decide, you can do anything. And with CLIL, for example, we can use debates. This debate is one of my passion as well. And of course, with debate, you can have students debating on global issues. You can have them discuss. You can activate critical thinking through debate. So you can choose the topic that will be relevant, and of course, talk about culture as well. I can see one more question here about technologies, about the material. I will answer just saying that, of course, I didn't say that books are useless. Of course, we can use book, we can use text materials. I was only saying that it's difficult to find a CLIL book, for example, on that particular topic, and that is just the right book for our context. It's something that we are in the post-method era, no? In language teaching, as in post-truth and in post-modernity. So in an era where we can use any sort of techniques that can be useful for our students. So even with language teaching, for example, just teaching English, an English teacher will rarely be stuck to the line from page 1 to page 100, only using the textbook, and that's it. But the idea is to integrate, to use other, of course, materials, to use the net. So of course, it's just a matter of choice, no? According to the situation. But technologies, learning technologies, of course, books can be the starting point. If you find excellent books in history, in CLIL history, CLIL in science, and there are a lot of publishers also in Italy are working on that. So you can start from, you can use those books, but then the idea is also to integrate, to use resources to find the other, materials that can be helpful and that can be adapted to that specific context, because that is the idea, to just make your lessons tailor-made to your classes and to your students, their levels, their needs. I think that I have time for maybe one more question, because Manzi, I see that I'm sorry, but I need to leave in 5 minutes to end the meeting in 5 minutes. So Tammy, if we have one more question. One last question.
Yeah. So one of the participant asked that CLIL is commonly used in India. Where CLIL is most commonly used?
Well, that's something maybe you can answer, Manzi. You can answer about India, because the situation in India, well, we have, of course, with bilingual education, with English, English being used, commonly used, you are somehow privileged, no? So you have a sort of daily CLIL, but maybe you can, maybe we have one participants here from the Zoom who wants to take the floor, maybe answer about CLIL in India.
Vidyanand sir. Vidyanand sir, can you hear us?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yeah. With reference to the same thing, I just want to share, because it's very interesting. And then you have that, dual language focus. And what we had been experiencing from India since our childhood, we have 3 language formula. So that was the language what we study for your men's school is, for example, English, then the national language Hindi, and then the third language as your state language or the vernacular language. And then this approach, since 2016 and then since 2003, that's what you had made it dual language approach, and that had made compulsory in upper level. So what are your experiences? Because why I felt this important, although these formulas are there, we had been in the teacher education program, and now I see that some students more preferably they want their all that content and then all things to be in their dialect or in their native vernacular language, and the others, the common teaching method what we adopted for our department is English language. So earlier what we used to make, we used to make sure that as you are at university level, you have to go through English. But as now, when I thought of your dual language approach, now we also need to think in that particular line. So just kindly share us what your experience is, because there is though, as she had said, no inequality. Don't two differences makes in that. Half of the class is with English, half of the class is in the with our regional or state languages. So when we approach now, as you said, that technology like Google Translation and the AI would help them, but it doesn't give the real sense of meaning of culture. So kindly share with your experiences, because we had been struggling with all this three language formula and dealing culture with the states. So what are your Italian experiences?
Well, talking about the well, first of all, of course, Google Translator is just one tool, but when I talk about learning technologies, now I'm just the mentee that I showed you at the beginning. It was a way to use learning technologies, because we had a brainstormings on the different aspects of CLIL, your ideas, lexical, let's say, lexical activity. So that was now an example of how we can talk, we can discuss, we can do CLIL somehow. So not only Google Translator, of course, because I was always saying CLIL is not necessarily translation. Is not translation, of course, and not only translation. We can translate something, of course, but CLIL is a wider, of course, methodology. The idea of when we have more languages like three formula, as you were saying, we experienced we have some projects in Italy working on home languages, on plurilingualism, and what we tried to do was to enhance the students' home languages and also try to let them free to express in their language, in the language they felt more comfortable with. Also trying to give them the role of teachers, like peer teaching, so that there could be, for example, the ambassador of the language for 1 week. And this also gives the opportunity to enhance their culture, because maybe, some topic can be related to the specific, artifacts, for example, to be done. Maybe this can be the link to the culture. So how they do that in their, for example, in their country. And so of course, cultural links can be easier when we talk about, we have humanistic subjects, with history, with civics. It's easier to make connections because cultures of the country and so on will be really immediate, clear, let's say. While with STEM can be done. I mean, it can be with sustainable goals, of course, can be important to be. But what I think is that with CLIL, you don't have this focus only to the language. You don't teach, you don't deliver that specific content into another language, like happens, for example, in EMI. English is a medium of instruction, which is common in Italy at higher education, but not a school. We have a full immersion in the language, in English, which is academic English. So is the particular content is delivered in English. All the curriculum, all the subjects for the entire year is in English. While with CLIL, we have this softer, this more flexible approach, just with different using translanguaging, code switching, code mixing, so making this sort of translingual practices and working by modules. So not the entire school year, not the entire subject, but modules in English, for example, within a wider plan, and the rest of the subject. The rest of the subject, of course, will be delivered in Italian. So this is a way also for the CLIL teacher to have a general overview and also to make connections, because maybe some other previous parts were delivered in Italian, maybe future parts will be delivered in Italian, and the CLIL parts in English will be maybe in the middle and will allow to make bridges and to extend expand the students' knowledge. Now, I'm really sorry, but I need to leave you because I have another meeting. So I hope I just could give you a general review. Of course, feel free to also to write. Maybe you can write our wonderful ladies from the project, or my email, which is I can write also in the chat, which is my personal mail is okay. You can write me, and then of course we'll stay in touch with as soon as we have the students selection, then we'll organize some separate sessions with them and plan activities in Italy. Okay, so thank you everybody for being
No
with us.
problem, Letizia. Thank you so much. We will collect
Thank you,
all the
ma'am.
questions and transfer,
Of course,
mail you all the
of
questions.
course.
So
Share with
we
me all the
just want to
questions.
say something to you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Letizia, and thank you to all the partners for joining us, and thank you, students, for joining us on YouTube. So I'll just try to briefly summarize what Letizia said. CLIL is a methodology that you people, the students, are going to use when you are going to teach in Italian schools, means shadow teachers in Italian schools also. So that is why you'll have the help of Dr. Letizia and other teachers there to learn the CLIL pedagogy and how to use it in the classrooms. So while listening to Letizia, I realized that the school systems which are trying to close gaps between different subject curriculums, CLIL can be a very nice tool in bridging those gaps. Also, in India, I have seen that when I used to be a child, while learning a third language, that was Sanskrit, we used to consider learning Sanskrit as a learning a subject rather than learning a tool to communicate our ideas. So CLIL pedagogy will make language learning more interesting, because the students will see language as a tool rather than a goal in itself, or a subject that we need to learn in order to pass. Thank you so much, Letizia, and thank you, partners. Does anyone have anything to say, or we should close?
Yes, I think we can say goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, Alda, Celia, and all my wonderful team in India and all over. I mean, all the people connected. Thank you for being with us, and
Thank
see
you
you
so
soon
much.
in India. I'm looking forward to meeting you in India. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.